Yeah, so Dipender, I believe you're using the .32 version where
That's
you
correct.
can currently debug only one taskbot at a time. But in the upcoming .33 release, we are introducing the support for debugging child automation, in which case we are introducing step in and step out actions in the debug control.
Hi guys, welcome to the channel. Recently I had an opportunity to present at Developer Meetup, Automation Anywhere's Developer Meetup, and the topic was utilizing code analysis and debugging tools. So in this video, you'll see the extract from that webinar or from that session with respect to debugging tools. So how and why debugging is important for your A360 bots or for your automations, and how you can achieve that using Automation Anywhere's built-in debugging features. Also, what is coming up with respect to debugging options in the version .33. Stay tuned, watch this entire video. What exactly do we mean by debugging? Why we need debugging? And then the options or features that are available in Automation 360 to debug a task bot. After that, I'll be sharing a demo, live demo, where we will actually debug a bot, task bot. So with that, let's get started. To understand the term debugging, right? Debugging is the process of identifying or analyzing software bugs. It is not only relevant to automation, it's relevant to across software development or software engineering industry. So it is the process of where we identify or remove errors or bug in a software program. So in this case, it's taskbot. It's an automation where we try to identify and remove errors. What it involves? This involves running our software program. In this case, it's taskbot. We have to run our taskbot and keep on checking, tracking what is the source of error, from where we are getting this issue or errors, right? In order to know that, we have to run our bot repetitively and place some breakpoints. I'll come to that term later. Then you might ask, what is the goal? What is the goal of debugging? The goal is to ensure that our task bot or our automation operates correctly and efficiently, right? So this debugging, right, it can range from a simple syntax correction or a complex logic corrections and performance optimization. With the help of debugging, you can build efficient bots. You can identify certain areas where there is a code leakage, if any, or you can also loop through the concept where you identify how this particular piece of logic is working. So you can identify the gaps. So why do we need debugging? I mean, if someone directly builds a bot and they can just test it out and everything is working as expected and they can productionize the bot. But I mean, even if there are no errors or no known errors, I would say, your bot is running fine, then you don't need debugging. But I mean, this would add an additional layer for the developers, that you can take certain measures like some corrections in the error, reliability of the bot, then optimization. I mean, this is very, very critical, right? You have to optimize whatever bot you have built. You must optimize it so that it gives you best performance in the production. Then security is one aspect. So you have to detect and remove vulnerabilities. Any open end line of code that attacker may try to inject their code. For example, if you are using REST APIs, right, you have to make sure that headers are passed properly. You're not leaving any gaps there to exploit your API headers. This was one of such example where the security aspect come into picture. Then improve in the user experience, like you make sure that there are no unexpected crashes of your bot. And then maintainability. So these are some points where we understand why actually we need debugging. Then moving on to the next is the debugging options that are available in Automation 360 platform. So if you can see in the image, this is a small debug menu and a assistant. So from the previous session, if you know that Maulish has already presented this assistant option where you are seeing the code analysis errors, right? So the same in the same assistant window, you can also use the debug options. So these are some shortcut keys which I have mentioned for debugging and enabling breakpoints, finding the code or finding variables in the code. So I think enough of talking. Let's move on to the actual demo where we will debug a live bot. Pressing F10 will not start the debugging. It will just let you open the debug menu. Okay. So let me switch over. So I'm taking one of the example from bot game force. If you guys remember, there was one challenge called resiliency challenge. I'm taking that for this example. Okay. So suppose this is your production bot, and you have n number of lines of code, and like you found there is some issue with the bot and you are not able to figure it out. With the help of logs and exception handling or message boxes, there are ways you can debug this, but this is better way to debug your automation, like this debug option. So what you will do is you will you will establish or you will enable the breakpoints. For example, I want to debug my code. I'm sure that at line number till line number 5, I'm fine with the logic, but I want to find out what is happening after line number 5. So I will just enable the breakpoint. So in order to enable a breakpoint, you just need to click here. It's a toggle button. So once you click, it will enable or disable the breakpoint. So let's say let's establish randomly few breakpoints. Okay. So this is how I have just enabled few breakpoints at few of the places. So this feature can be used in flow view as well as in the list view. But for better readability or better visibility, we'll use list view. Okay. And one more thing, if you hit this debug button, so you have to make sure before debugging your bot, you have to make sure that there are no validation error. What I mean by validation error. So for example, if you are using a command to read file and you have not provided a file, so that is a validation error. The command is incomplete. So in that case, you will not be able to run this debug and you will not be able to use debug options. Okay. So you have to make sure there are no validation errors. All the commands that you are using here are complete. So let me save this and click on debug option. So as soon as you click debug option, you're provided this assistant window. And if I click back here, you can see the issue browser where you get the code analysis errors, warnings errors, and you see this advanced search and replace options. So you can also use. So this assistant window is a multi-purpose window. Now, for now, we'll focus on debug. So in this debug menu, you see only 3 icons, right? Start debugging, step into, and stop debugging. So let me start debugging. So as soon as I click on start debugging button, you see here, the taskbot is now in debug mode. So it will just run because I have my breakpoint at line number 5, right? So till that line it will execute. And let me go back to there. Yeah. So at line number 8, we have enabled the breakpoint. So it is paused over there, right? It requires action, developers action to proceed further. So now it's up to you what you have, what action you take. You can either continue to the next breakpoint, or you can do a step into next action. So step into option is to, like, if you want to debug step by step from your breakpoint. But if you think this is fine and I just want to jump over to the next breakpoint, then you just click on again F5 or this start button. So for now, let me click on step into next action or F6. So it will just navigate one by one all these steps. Okay. See, it is trying to open. And now let me tell you this watched variable concept. So as at the moment, there are no variables that we are watching for the values. In this automation, I have used a lot of variables, but you don't see any of them. So we can add those variables from here, either from this button or from here. So let's say I want to add city DOM. So you can just view the value here, you can edit it, or you can remove it from the watch list. For now, I mean, I'll just try to see the values. What are the values? For example, now I'm just trying to open a CSV here and read the data to and store it to the table variable. So let me just navigate till here, till this loop. I'll just hit next to continue to the next breakpoint, and now it is here. So I expect there is some data in the table variable. So if you go here, you see table from CSV. There is one my table type variable. If I see this, it will show me the values in the debug mode. So you can just try to debug it if in case if you're facing any challenges with the data, or if you're facing any error while reading and converting that data into a table variable. So all that you can debug in with the in-memory object. Okay. For now, let me close this. So in this way, you can add whatever variables you want. In your automation, you don't need all the variables to watch, right? So you can just add those, and those will be shown up at the top. And now, yeah, if you want to search any variable, for example, you are tracking one variable, let's say street address. So you want to search that variable across entire taskbot wherever it is referenced. So you can just type in street address, and that will show up. All the references to that variable will show up. Like it can find 4 results. You can navigate using these options, and it will help you to navigate across the bot, and you can determine where it is getting initialized or reinitialized. And in that way, you can try to debug your task bot. Then if you, let's say if you are done with the debugging and you don't want the debug, like don't want this automation in a debug deep in a debug mode, or you don't want these breakpoints to be appearing. So what you can do is you can just click this button or shift plus F9 to clear all the breakpoints at once. Or if you are still in the debug mode, but you're sure that up to line number 15 you're fine, then you can remove those breakpoints one by one.
Yeah, so Dipender, I believe you're using the .32 version where
That's correct.
you can currently debug only one taskbot at a time. But in the upcoming .33 release, we are introducing the support for debugging child automation, in which case we are introducing step in and step out actions in the debug control, so that whenever you have a call to a child task, you can easily apply the step in action, which will eventually open the child task bot there itself within the same canvas. At the same time, you can also see a call stack view through which you can get the order or the sequence in which each of these child bots are being called. And along with those individual child bots, you can also add watch variables for a specific bot that you're currently debugging. So all of these new enhancements are upcoming in the .33 release, which will basically simplify or improve the overall debugging experience. So here are nothing but the screenshots of those new enhancements. So like here, as you see, whenever there is a call to a child bot, then we enable these two actions within the debug control, that is step in and step out. So let's say if you have put a breakpoint within the child bot and you want to debug the child bot, then you can click this step in action, which will open the child bot right there itself. And then at the top, you will see a drop down, which will list all the automations that you're trying to step in while debugging. At the same time, each time you do a step in, your call stack will grow in the reverse order. So the current bot that you're debugging will be on top of the stack, and the first bot that you've started debugging with will be at the bottom of the stack. So a call stack view will be available where you are able to see all the automations that you have stepped in. And at any point in time, if you want to navigate from one child pod to the another child pod during the debug session, you can easily navigate and you can inspect the variable and their corresponding value at that point in time. Similarly, in the main canvas, you will have this drop down where you can also see the same call stack view. So if you want to navigate from one bot to the another while you're debugging, then you can easily do so in the same canvas. Moving further, in terms of watch variables, currently you can add or remove watch variables for the current parent bot that you're debugging. However, when you upgrade to .33 release, and then when you're debugging multiple automations, as and when you select the child bot that you've stepped in, you have the ability to open this watch variable window where you can see the list of variables that are applicable or relevant to the current bot. You can add them. You can then view the current value of those automations. At any point in time, if you want to change the value of the variable and see how the execution behaves, then you can easily go ahead with this edit icon to edit the value. While editing, you can also see the properties of this variable so that you no longer have to go to the variable manager to see whether this variable was used as an input or an output or whether this variable is a constant. So you can easily edit the variable value right in the same debug session. And then in the next subsequent call, wherever the variable is being used, it will utilize the new value that you have already set. At the same time, you would also see that all the shortcuts, keyboard shortcuts for the debug control actions have been revamped in order to make it consistent and more readable. So you have F6 to start the debugging or to pause and continue. Shift F6 will allow you to stop the debugging. Then F7 will allow you to do a step over from one action to another. F8 is the new shortcut key that we have introduced to step in into a particular child bot. And as and when if you want to say step out from a child bot, then you can use Shift plus F8. If you want to enable, disable, or toggle the breakpoints, then you can use F9. If you want to toggle all the breakpoints, then you can use Shift plus F9. And if you want to open the debug tool, then you can use F10. So all the shortcuts within the keyboard shortcut view has been revamped in order to make it consistent. So with .33, the debugging will be much more simpler. You will be able to debug the entire automation end to end, starting from the parent automation till the last child bot being called in the automation.